USA, Colt Single Action Army. The year 1873 marked a shift in how the American West armed itself, moving from percussion caps to metallic cartridges, with a piece of hardware that became an extension of the cavalryman's hand. The Colt Single Action Army, often chambered in the heavy-hitting .45 Colt, carries a balance that modern polymer pistols struggle to replicate. It sits in the palm with a heft that implies durability, a feeling solidified by the distinct 4 clicks the hammer makes when pulled back, COLT. Loading it requires patience. The user opens the loading gate on the right side and feeds rounds one by one, spinning the cylinder manually. This slow ritual forces a deliberate mindset. In the chaos of the late 19th century, frontier counting shots mattered, and the tedious ejection of spent casings using the spring-loaded rod alongside the 4.75-inch barrel gave a shooter time to think. While later generations would associate it with Hollywood spins, its original purpose was grimly practical for mounted troops who needed a firearm that functioned despite dust grit and hard riding. A detail often missed is the philosophy of the empty chamber. With the firing pin resting directly on the primer, a sharp blow could cause an accidental discharge, so seasoned users learned to load 5 rounds and rest the hammer on the empty 6th slot. This safety measure became standard practice long before transfer bars existed. The trigger breaks cleanly, a glass rod snap that sends the heavy lead slug downrange. It remains a piece of machinery that demands interaction, turning the act of shooting into a mechanical conversation between the operator and the steel. Italy. Chiappa Rhino. Italian design often prioritizes aesthetics, yet the Chiappa Rhino ignores tradition entirely to solve a physics problem that has plagued handguns for centuries. Most revolvers fire from the top chamber, creating a leverage point high above the grip that snaps the wrist upward upon recoil. The Rhino flips this logic, firing from the bottom chamber of the hexagonal cylinder. This alignment drives the recoil energy straight back into the shooter's forearm, rather than flipping the muzzle toward the sky. Handling the .357 Magnum version reveals the immediate benefit of this strange architecture. The bore axis sits significantly lower than on a standard service revolver, making rapid follow-up shots feel unnervingly flat. The internal mechanism looks nothing like the simple clockwork of the past. A complex system of levers and linkages transfers the trigger pull to the hammer, which is actually a cocking indicator, while the real hammer strikes from inside the frame. The aluminum alloy frame keeps the weight manageable, but the visual bulk is undeniable. It looks like a prop from a science fiction set, blocky and utilitarian. Even the cylinder is flattened on the sides to reduce the profile for concealed carry, shaving mere millimeters off the width, but changing the silhouette entirely. When firing full-power Magnum loads, the sensation is a firm shove rather than a violent snap. It changes the shooter's relationship with recoil, turning a typically punishing caliber into something controllable. The odd appearance is simply the shape of function, a complete reimagining of how a revolver interacts with human anatomy. Russia, Nagantem, 1895. In the late 19th century, the Russian Imperial Army sought a sidearm that prioritized efficiency over speed, resulting in a machine that defies the standard rules of revolver operation. The Nagant M1895 is a gas seal revolver, a mechanical curiosity where the cylinder moves forward as the hammer is cocked. This forward motion inserts the mouth of the 7.62 by 38 rimmed cartridge directly into the forcing cone of the barrel, creating a continuous bore. This seal prevents the escape of high-pressure gas from the gap between the cylinder and the barrel, a common trait in every other revolver. By trapping all the expanding gas behind the bullet, the Nagant squeezes every bit of velocity from the modest cartridge. This unique feature also allows it to be effectively suppressed, a capability almost unheard of in this class of firearm. The trade-off is the trigger pull. In double-action mode, the shooter is not just rotating the cylinder and cocking the hammer, but also forcing the entire steel cylinder assembly forward against a heavy spring. Reloading is a test of endurance. A gate on the right side opens to reveal the empty chambers, and an ejector rod stored within the cylinder axis pin must be unscrewed and used to poke out each casing individually. It is slow, methodical, and incredibly robust. The manufacturing tolerances were loose enough to function in the freezing mud of the Eastern Front, yet tight enough to maintain the gas seal. It represents a specific doctrinal choice. A sidearm was a badge of authority and a last resort where reliability and mechanical sealing mattered more than the ability to reload in a panic. France. Manourin Mimar 73. The French Gendarmerie's intervention group GIGN required a sidearm capable of surgical precision under the worst possible conditions, leading to the creation of the Manourin MR-73. This is less a mass-produced tool and more a piece of industrial art built to withstand a diet of full-power .357 Magnum ammunition that would shake lesser frames to pieces. The steel used here is an ordnance-grade alloy, the same type found in heavy artillery barrels, chosen for its extreme resistance to fatigue. Every surface speaks to a fanatical obsession with quality. The barrel is cold hammer forged, a process that compresses the steel structure for density and longevity. Shooters often note the unique sensation of the trigger mechanism. It utilizes roller bearings in the action, smoothing out the friction to a degree that makes the double-action pull feel consistent from start to break. An adjustable mainspring allows the operator to tune the resistance without compromising the ignition reliability of the primer. During qualification, these revolvers are expected to maintain tight grouping after firing tens of thousands of rounds, a lifespan that exceeds the career of most operators. The deep, lustrous bluing on the finish hides the sheer toughness of the underlying metal. It was designed for a context where a single shot had to end a threat instantly, often in crowded environments like hijacked aircraft. The MR-73 proves that the revolver design reached its zenith not in the 19th century, but in the hands of French counter-terrorism units in the 1970s. UK, Webley, Mark 6. The trenches of the First World War demanded a weapon that could stop a charging adversary instantly, and the British Empire answered with the Webley Mark 6. This top-break revolver is a massive chunk of iron chambered in the slow-moving but heavy .455 Webley cartridge. The design prioritizes speed of reloading above structural strength. By pressing a latch on the side, the barrel and cylinder assembly hinge downward, and a star-shaped extractor automatically rises to push all 6 spent casings out at once. This break-open action allows a soldier to clear the weapon and drop in fresh rounds while keeping their eyes on the chaos ahead. The grip is square and abrupt, forcing the hand high, while the 6-inch barrel gives the weapon a distinct nose-heavy balance. It feels substantial, like a piece of heavy machinery rather than a precise instrument. The trigger pull in double action is heavy, intended to prevent accidental discharges during the adrenaline of close combat. A fascinating aspect of its service life was the man-stopper philosophy. The bullet traveled at a leisurely pace compared to modern rounds, but its mass ensured it transferred all its energy into the target without overpenetrating. Officers often carried these with a lanyard attached to the ring at the base of the grip, securing the weapon against loss in the mud. It represents the pinnacle of the British service revolver, a weapon built for the grim, muddy reality of close-quarters trench warfare, where reliability and stopping power were the only metrics that counted. Japan Type 26. The Type 26 emerged from the Tokyo arsenal in 1893, marking Japan's first indigenous modern service handgun. It carries the aesthetic of that era, resembling the break-top designs popular in the West, yet handling one reveals a mechanical eccentricity that often unnerves modern shooters. With the hammer down, the cylinder spins freely. It rotates effortlessly in either direction, clicking softly like a safe dial. This behavior usually signals a broken firearm, yet here the design functions exactly as intended. The revolver operates on a double-action-only system, lacking a manual hammer spur entirely. The cylinder stop remains disengaged until the shooter begins that long, heavy trigger pull. The logic becomes clear when considering the end user. This was a cavalry weapon. A rider bouncing in the saddle needed a gun that simply fired when squeezed without worrying about cocking hammers or distinct locking stages. It fires a proprietary 9mm Japanese cartridge, a round relatively low-powered by later standards, but sufficient for close-range encounters. While the 120mm barrel offers a decent sight radius, accuracy takes a back seat to rugged maintenance. Unlatching the trigger guard allows the entire side plate to swing open on a hinge, like a door exposing the internal springs and levers. A soldier could clean the mud out of the action in seconds without risking a single lost screw, a feature that kept these revolvers in service well past the Second World War. Germany. Mauser C-78, zigzag. Before the Luger became the face of German sidearms, the Mauser C-78 zigzag demonstrated the nation's penchant for complex, high-precision engineering. The defining feature is etched right into the steel of the cylinder, a series of connected grooves that zigzag around the circumference. Unlike most revolvers that use a ratchet and powell at the rear to rotate the cylinder, the C-78 uses a stud that rides in these tracks. As the hammer is cocked or the trigger pulled, the stud follows the groove, camming the cylinder to the next chamber and locking it rock solid during firing. This mechanism is visibly mesmerizing and mechanically distinct. There is no play or wobble. The cylinder is guided positively through every degree of rotation. Chambered in various calibers, including a potent 10.6mm, it was a robust piece of equipment, though expensive to manufacture due to the intricate machining required for the cam tracks. The frame is a solid hinge design with a latch that releases the barrel assembly upward, a reversal of the typical top brake motion. Handling one feels like operating a fine pocket watch. The clicks are precise, and the motion is fluid, lacking the grittiness found in cheaper mass-produced arms. It was eventually overshadowed by semi-automatic designs, but the zigzag remains a monument to a time when designers solved problems with intricate geometry rather than simple springs. It showcases a refusal to compromise on mechanical perfection, even if that perfection resulted in a weapon that was complicated to build and maintain in the field. Austria. Rast and Gasser M. 1898. The Austro-Hungarian Empire equipped its officers with the Rast and Gasser M. 1898, a revolver that prioritized capacity and safety over stopping power. Holding 8 rounds of 8mm Gasser, it offered 2 more shots than the standard 6-shooters of the day. This advantage was significant in an era where reloading was slow. The solid frame design loads through a gate on the right, similar to the Colt, but features a simplified rugged Abadie loading gate mechanism. When the loading gate is opened, the hammer is disconnected from the trigger, allowing the cylinder to rotate freely for loading without the risk of accidental discharge. The shooter can pull the trigger to rotate the cylinder to the next chamber, while the gate is open, speeding up the ejection and loading process without having to manually turn the cylinder. This small feature shows a deep understanding of the stress of combat reloading. Field stripping the weapon reveals a surprising number of machined parts fitting together like a puzzle. The fit and finish were exceptionally high for a standard-issue military arm. While the 8mm cartridge was somewhat underpowered compared to its contemporaries, the volume of fire was the primary doctrine. It feels dense in the hand with a grip angle that points naturally. The Rast and Gasser remained in service long after the empire that created it collapsed, a stubborn piece of engineering that valued round count and mechanical safety above the brute force of larger calibers. Belgium, FN Barracuda. In the 1970s, Fabrique Nationale aimed to capture the police market with a revolver that offered unprecedented versatility, the FN Barracuda. The core concept was adaptability. Revolvers are typically married to a single cartridge family, but the Barracuda was designed with a quick-change cylinder system. A user could swap the cylinder in seconds, transitioning from the prevalent 9mm Parabellum used in semi-automatics to the powerful 357 Magnum or 38 Special. This feature allowed a police department to train recruits with cheaper, lower-recoil 9mm ammunition while carrying Magnum loads for duty or to share ammunition logistics with officers carrying pistols. The frame is solid and heavy-built to absorb the snap of Magnum rounds. The trigger guard is noticeably rounded, and the grip was designed to accommodate various hand sizes, a nod to the diverse demographics of modern police forces. Despite the innovation, the timing was unfortunate, arriving just as the world began shifting en masse to high-capacity semi-automatic pistols, Wonder 9s. The Barracuda remains a high-quality, misunderstood firearm. It feels utilitarian and dense with a smooth double-action pull that reflects FN's reputation for quality manufacturing. The ability to shoot rimless 9mm cartridges using moon clips in a heavy-duty revolver frame makes for a remarkably soft shooting experience. It stands as a bridge between two eras, trying to offer the reliability of a wheel gun with the logistical flexibility of a pistol. Brazil, Taurus Raging Bull. Brazil entered the global heavy hitter market with a statement piece designed for handgun hunting and silhouette shooting, the Taurus Raging Bull. This is not a concealed carry weapon. It is a portable artillery piece, often chambered in the massive .454 caisson, a cartridge capable of taking down large game. The revolver requires significant engineering to keep the shooter safe and the gun intact. The most striking visual element is the bright red cushion insert running down the back of the grip, designed to absorb the punishing recoil impulse. To handle the immense pressure of the cartridge, the Raging Bull utilizes a dual lockup cylinder. A latch on the crane adds a second locking point at the front, ensuring the cylinder stays perfectly aligned with the barrel during the violent ignition. The barrel is ported at the muzzle, directing expanding gases upward to counteract the muzzle rise, allowing the shooter to recover their sight picture faster. Lifting it, one notices the weight immediately. It acts as a necessary counterbalance to the power of the round. The ventilated rib along the top of the barrel gives it a distinct aggressive profile. It represents the democratization of power, making high-caliber hunting handguns accessible and controllable. Shooting it is a visceral experience. The concussion is felt in the chest as much as the hand. It is a tool for a specific purpose designed for the hunter who wants to close the distance and rely on a single perfectly placed shot. The evolution of the revolver is a map of national priorities, from the rugged frontier necessity of America to the intricate mechanical perfection of Germany and the sheer stopping power of Brazil. Each design tells a story of how different cultures solved the same problem: how to reliably put rounds downrange. If you enjoyed this mechanical deep dive, hit the subscribe button and check out the video on the screen now for a look at how semi-automatic pistols eventually took the crown.